My name is Helen Suizu Norheim. I'm a clinician and I've been working in camps since 2008. And the last 8 years I've been working with the youngest children. I'm currently a PhD student at AHUS. My field of interest is how to help children exposed to trauma or relational trauma and how their parents may support their development. Since 2005, I've been working voluntarily with refugee mothers and children in NGOs in Norway. And in the last 8 years, I've been working with NGOs in the Middle East. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to share with you some thoughts about caring for the youngest children and their caregivers. I will start with a reminder of our cultural lens. The way we see the world, ourselves and others, depends on our experience and culture. We react differently to threats and danger. This is important to have in mind. So what works for some does not work for others. Sometimes culture can hinder us in recovering because some things becomes too shameful to talk about, such as rape, but this can really trigger a pregnant mother feeling not having control of her own body. Giving birth or holding a baby close can feel overwhelming for her. A mother can be depressed after giving birth. It might feel too shameful to share. As a helper, we have possibility to question some social norms and attitudes and inviting people to look at their experience in a different way. My goal today is to remind you that parenting and the interaction between the child and its caregivers in the early years are formative in developing child's emotional regulation, socialization, and cognitive capacities. Trauma, crisis, and uncertainty may interfere in this important interaction. It can make it less sensitive or less responsive. Winnicott, a child psychiatrist, reminded us that children need a good enough mother. The child will learn from rupture and repair. Plan for this talk. I will start with explaining attachment, and then I will explain some principles of recovery, how to help pregnant mothers and their unborn children, and then how to help mothers, caregivers with infants and babies, and how to help mothers of the toddlers and preschoolers. And when I say mothers, I also include caregivers and fathers. To prevent the onset of distress to the child's development, it's about how support the interaction between the baby and the caregiver. It is divided into 3 parts: the parent's contribution, the child's contribution, and the interaction in itself. These are forming the developmental support. In an ongoing crisis, there is a lot of pressure on the parent's inner calm. A consequence of being activated is being less concentrated, less aware of what's happening here and now, and this may impair the interaction quality over time. To better understand this interaction, I will present a model. I would like to introduce this model. It's based on attachment theory. It can be a help to explain how important the parents are in the child's development. The model is taken from a family intervention called Circle of Security. It's showing 2 basic needs the child has. The child needs to explore the world and the need for care. The upper part of the circle is showing the exploration. This starts when the child can move around in its environment, and it will increase as the autonomy develops. The child still needs the parent's attention to share enjoyment of master something and being close enough to support and help. And when the child is tired or need protection or comfort, it will seek the parents. And they need the parents to be a secure base. The lower part of the circle is showing this care system. The child needs to come close and need help to organize its feelings, what's happening inside and happening outside. The parent here needs to be a safe haven. Good support for the child is parents that can be bigger, stronger, wiser, and kind, and whenever they can, follow the child's needs, and when necessary, take charge. This makes a base for the child's develop of inner self-regulation over time. Working with parents in crisis, we have focused on re-establishing and strengthening some parenting skills. One is to mentalize, to look at the child from the inside and oneself from the outside, taking account of the child's feeling, thoughts, and intentions. This is difficult, but the reminder is to have an active curiosity of what's happening inside the child. Another close related skill is how parents understand the child being an individual. How is the child represented in their minds? If a child is understood as a very difficult child, then most likely the parents will respond accordingly and may overlook needs. If a parent manages to stay open for the child's shift and changes, the more likely the child gets developmental support it needs. Here is an illustration from Bruce Perry of how caregivers manage to stay calm. The parent is the lower line and the child is the upper line, starting very high in intense emotions. And after a while, when the parents stay calm, the child also will calm down. At a certain point, the child is more open for using sensory modalities to calm, like the tone of voice, mimic the emotions, gently patting, holding, and rocking. This is called co-regulation. Calming oneself in an ongoing crisis is a challenge. Refugee mothers have told me that calming techniques is the most useful tool they have learned. We have groups where they find a technique that works for them, and some imagine a safe place, a place from their home, and visualize this. I will also use another model made from Daniel Siegel. It's an attachment researcher. He called this the window of tolerance. It's visualizing the range of emotion we manage to self-regulate without being overwhelmed and still stay open, curious, and present. And here you would see a model where a trauma event has happened, and this may lead to an activation. And over time, it is like parents are stuck in the on. Over time, this may lead to anxiety, panic, or hyperactivity. Or you can see it could lead to stuck on the off, where there's absolutely no energy, or flat effect, exhaustion, or chronic fatigue. And this can be illustrated in how a dysregulation may look like between the child and the parent. Activated parents can fail to read the child's need and get easily irritated or upset when the child has a need. This can lead to, over time, parenting that becomes harsh and punitive, but as a parent, it can also be motivating to learn how to work on self-regulation. So, what help? Here are some principles from recovery. Reducing stress after trauma. This is from a review by Hopful and his colleagues from 2007. They found some common principles that gave most effect on reducing stress after trauma. A girl told me during bombing that her father gathered the siblings and her to tell them stories from the childhood. This gave her a sense of safety and control over the fear. So, one of the most important is to install sense of safety. using structure to organize activities, predictability, give information, be respectful, validate their own feelings. Another is finding ways to calm yourself, learning techniques and practice them on a regular basis, breathing, mindfulness, stretching, yoga, grounding, and have a sense of control. Believing your action can actually have a positive outcome, that your opinion matter, that you have choices and you can influence your own life, even if it's hard. Connect to others, finding support and give support, believing that your group or community can overcome together. Social support is one of the most important principles. And re-establishing hope. Picture your goals, talk about wishes for your children. You can draw also inspiration from historical and cultural important stories. In working with mothers, we have made various activities for each of these principles to have some choices to what they want to use. And we also use them as a framework when organizing an activity. When it's chaotic on the inside, structure can provide support. Now I will talk about pregnancy and pregnant mothers. Pregnancy is a time associated with joy and life and a shift of identity. If the pregnant mother has experienced a caring environment herself, it's easier to draw from this when imagining herself as a mother. If she has a supportive partner, the shift of focus from outside to inside is also easier. Pregnancy is a time to revisit childhood memories and reflect upon what kind of mother you want to become. This is a quote from Selma Freiberg. Pregnancy is a sensitive period full of change. When parents are playing with thoughts of becoming caregivers and imagine their child, it is preparing them to connect and protect the child after birth. Mothers forming a prenatal attachment are more sensitive to the infant after they're born, and they are more open for interpret the child in a positive way. It can be helpful to explore the pregnant mother with the unborn child. Who is this person? What kind of mother will she be? And what is the cultural expectation of parenting? And maybe there are some events and feelings from her own childhood that are unresolved. Pregnancy is a good time to explore this. Trauma and stress may interrupt the pregnant mother's bond to the unborn child. Becoming helpless, overwhelmed by the situation may disturb the mother's imagination of the child or draw from her own childhood memories and see herself as a mother. Becoming self-absorbed in anxiety-driven thoughts, leaving no space for reflecting on the new identity. It may feel very uncomfortable to look inwards. Physical pain and discomfort, this do not want, and the mother may not want to focus on the growing life and do not have the strength to imagine the responsibility. Many mothers I talk to feel overwhelmed by the responsibility, and it makes them hard to stay present. And also forgetting their own resources of how to give care. So, how to help mothers connect to herself and the unborn baby. Help to shift focus from the pregnant and her partner to focus on the parenting and the newborn infant. Help parents look at how to care and the child's need for support. And some children will need something extra. Help make mental space for the newborn in families with the many challenges, such as illness, adversities, and crisis. And I also want to focus on a group intervention that is made for pregnant mothers. This is made by Taya Anke, and she suggests 3 or 4 sessions where they can talk about both psychological and practical topics, like this role of a mother, the child's needs, the interaction when needs clashes and when they synchronize, like the child in the mother, the care for herself, what kind of mother does she wants to be, and when no one needs are in focus, then what is also a suggested topic. Helping parents with infants and babies. The prenatal period lasts for about 42 days after birth. In many cultures, there are traditions to help the family with practical tasks, making dinner to them. For instance, the first 6 weeks are vulnerable. The parents and the baby needs to get to know each other and establish routines. There's a new guideline from WHO to achieve better health for women and children. WHO recommendation on maternal and newborn care as a positive postnatal experience. This mostly are covering the physical care and needs for a mother, but they also underline the need for mental health support. In a qualitative evidence synthesis, it was exploring what mothers want from postnatal care. And the mothers express a need for support to adapt to their self-identity as mothers and develop a sense of confidence and competence as mothers. And they also wanted to help to adjust to changes in their intimate relationship, including the relationship to their babies. And the review also highlighted the importance that the women place on breastfeeding as a medium for establishing a relationship with their baby and their need for help when the breastfeeding was difficult or painful. Helping the mother with an infant is a suggestion is to create a safe environment even if there's no physical space. Like who can support her with practical help, provide the mother rest, schedule a help would be good, follow up with home visits, help parents and the infant get to know each other. The only communication the infant has is the cry, and try to differentiate the cry for the babies. Newborn babies are different from birth. Some goes easily to sleep and others are very alert to any kind of stimulus. And establish sleep and eating routines will also differ. To get to know the child can be with like helping the child calm down, for instance like wrapping it in the blankets, as you see here. In a study, they looked for factors in the mothers and the child, what helped them share pleasure. They found that mothers and babies shared pleasure when they were able to read each other cues and to respond to them. So, infants of mother who were under great stress were less responsive and less clear in their cues. Although there are studies on how people experience stressful life events, they also report frequent positive emotions. It is less known about stressful life events that may affect the expression of positive emotions in the parent-infant interaction. The level of positive affectivity expressed in parent-infant interaction may also depend on infant characteristics such as gender and temperament. It is important to tell parents because they might easily feel guilty in not understanding their child, and some children need longer time and need to help to make clear cues. Sensitivity and responsiveness are important factors in intervention for strengthening attachment. Trauma affecting babies, often the same for mothers. Trauma is an experience in which a powerful and dangerous stimuli overwhelm the child's development and regulatory capacity, including the capacity to regulate emotions. The baby has insufficient resources to cope. The child can increase restlessness, like I'm not sure my needs are met, sleeping a lot, crying a lot, skin color may change, eating difficulties, not eating or overeating, affect the social contact, like the baby can shut down. There's a range of various ways the baby is upset, and it still could be a part of a normal development. It's important to keep the parents curious on how to care, and if you are worried about the baby, try to engage other caregivers as well. Ongoing crisis for the mother is a risk for the child. A psychological distress caused by stressful life events may make parents more negative towards the infant or the toddler's attempts at autonomy and social behavior, and less sensitive and responsive to face-to-face interaction. Stress can lead to mistrust and self-doubt as parents, change in the facial mimic, they become flat in their expressions, maybe eye contact is reduced, and mentalization is reduced to this is a difficult child or this child is against me. It also may lack mirroring and synchronicity. The baby may fail to learn to read faces, expressions, and not learn cues. The baby is dependent on the caregiver because its own mental capacities are not developed yet. Some parents need to know that how to calm and regulate themselves. And they also might need support in focusing on parenting skills. How is sensitivity expressed? And what does it mean to mirror? Helping mothers and babies and their interaction. Helping mother, support her with practical help, establish routine, social support, and maybe she can try calming exercises at least 2 minutes a day. Confidence in being good enough mother and highlight the moments with connection. Learning how to be sensitive to the child's cues or being aware of when she's sensitive to the child's cues. Structure activities, not invade the child, showing kindness is some of the parenting skills. Helping the dyad, being the voice of the baby, articulate what might going on the inside and on the outside. Like you're holding the baby and I need you to look at me, mom, or I need you to pick me up. Tell the child what's going to happen. Help to explore this particular baby's signal. When is it gazing at the parent? When is it pausing? And sometimes babies need a pause and they look away. And for some parents, they may feel rejected, but it's actually the way of the baby pausing after receiving a lot of stimulation. How does the child invite its parents? How does the child respond to its parents? These are some topics that could be good to explore together with the caregivers. Helping parents with younger children. I have here grouped toddlers and preschoolers, but when parenting them, you have to take into account their developmental stage, their temperament, their language skill, their understanding, age, autonomy, and gender. Toddlers and preschoolers, they need to be supported in. The child is more and more seeking its own autonomy. This will lead to more conflicts and disagreements, and they need independence, but still they would need a lot of help. The child will, around 1 to 2 years, be more attached to one caregiver in particular, and they will try out protesting and grieving when this caregiver is leaving. So the emotions are still intense. They cannot regulate themselves yet fully or understand their emotions. Rupture is common and normal. In a toddler's life, conflicts can happen several times during a day, and repairing is important for the child. They learn how to overcome stress. Children have a lot of fears, and this is normal. They do not yet have the mental capacity to understand, and they use magic imagination. So anything like darkness, sounds, new places can be scary. Trauma may affect the children's behavior. Toddlers, preschoolers, children may react by clinging, not being left alone. This might be even more difficult for shy children. Separation anxiety, fear of losing someone you love, is a threat. Food and sleeping problems, they cannot calm down, they have nightmares. Repetition in behavior and in play, they can play out the trauma, and the play can be chaotic. Passivity and helplessness, the child is shutting down but still in stress. Loss of skills, acting as a younger child. So, helping parents parenting. A toddler will misinterpret face, blame himself when he doesn't understand the situation and feel abandoned. Talk about the situation, give information that's age appropriate, include the child in the conversation with others. Need for an outer structure and reassurance. Be clear of what you expect of the child. And reassure, mommy is here, it's going to be fine, you are not alone, I will help you. Some behavior is not accepted, but expression emotion is. The child's need for co-regulation when the emotions are intense. Parents can stay calm and present, patiently waiting, not talk, and then being close until they're calm, and then explore what's happening. Fears and worries. Invite the child to share about the fear. Explain the tension it creates in our body. Explore what can make the child relax and feel safe. Use creativity to exposure. Let the monsters out. Give reassurance. Activities to help toddlers and preschoolers deal with traumatic events or transitions. Making a story so the trauma event becomes coherent. Play together. The caregiver and the child can have set time to play together daily. Follow the child's initiative. Listen to the child. Trauma will often be played out. It needs sometimes many repetitions. It's important that the caregiver follow and comment what you see so the child might feel understood. This way. Make a story with role plays. Let the child be the director. Write the story. Make a hopeful ending. Draw pictures and read it together. Reading stories about emotions. Help caregiver being aware of their regulatory tools. One way we do it is that we observe the child and the caregiver in a short interaction. And this can be shown to the mother, or we can just talk about their interaction and underlining how her expression is. Could the child interpret it as hostile or angry? Is it enthusiastic or joyful? How is her physical contact, the way she's close, the quality, natural, invading are some of the descriptions. The gaze and the eye contact. Does she look at the child? Does she smile? Does she return the smiles? Does she check in with the child when the child is playing? The voice of tone, is it warm, flat, positive, or negative? How is she verbalizing when she's with the child? And does she take some social initiative, and is she receiving them? I will also mention something called to validate emotions. I have done some parenting groups called Tuning into Kids. And Tuning into Kids is a group intervention where parents share their challenge and also learning skills together. Tuning into Kids is based on parents to notice the child's emotions, especially if it's of a lower intensity, such as disappointment or frustration, and view emotions as opportunity for intimacy and teaching. Communicate your understanding and acceptance for emotion, empathy, and help parents use words to describe what they feel. And then, if it's necessary, set boundaries and help to problem solve. Parents can also communicate that wishes and feelings are acceptable, but some behaviors are not. These are some steps that parents who emotion coach their child often do. It comes from a study of Gottman. So, to sum up, protection of interaction between the unborn baby, toddlers, preschoolers, and caregivers. Help parents to find ways to regulate their own bodily stress. Make a routine. Help caregivers to find time together with the child in play and follow their play. Help caregivers talk about their struggles in parenting with others in their own terms. Help them take the perspective of the child. Support networking so the mother caregivers can get some help and rest. Help to normalize the child's behavior. Help to stay with the child's emotions. Remind the child they are loved, their emotions is accepted, even if not all their behavior is. The parents is always there to help them. Just at the end, I would like to go through what do helpers need to know. Mothering the mother and how to stand in the gap. Mothering the mother is a concept we use when meeting mothers of young children. It's a relational experience of care. We want to give them a relational experience so they can model this for their child, But we also think that it's important that you can use it for yourself. It's very easy to become exhausted when working and living in the same environment as the mothers in crisis. Working with the youngest children also can be challenging because it's closely related to your own care system. That's why it's very important to fill up on your own care. You would look at some of the care you can make at the workplace. Can you have breaks without talking about work? Can you have an encouraging culture? Use the sense of humor. Socializing is regulating. Eat lunch together is one way to do it. Acknowledge that you're doing an important job and that you make a change. Self-compassion. Schedule time. Take shorter time to make it regularly. Acknowledge your strength. Help yourself be sensitive to your own signals. Use calming exercise like mindfulness. Take time to self-care, like filling the car with petrol. Take care of the body, like exercising, how to release muscle tensions, make healthy routines. Remind yourself of the motivation of becoming a helper, your values. Set boundaries in a respectful way and practice what you can say. It's easy to feel guilt and self-blame when you want to take rest and take action. And again, acknowledge that you're doing an important job and you make a change. Thank you for listening in.